well as around water. And then a lot of our medicine people, like our medicine men, they collect medicines. There's a protocol for a certain ceremony, for example. You use this medicine and you get it from this mountain over here, and you do these prayers to get it. You know, there's a whole strict kind of protocol around those things. And they're saying, well, that medicine's not growing over there anymore, you know, where they're supposed to go get these things from. And so then it just brings up these questions then, like culturally, how do we adapt to those changes that are happening? We're also affected by the causes of climate change. Like I said, fossil fuels. You know, in the United States, it's like through, I wish I had I didn't write down the statistics, but for whatever reason, a lot of fossil fuels in the United States are on Indian reservations. For example, 79% of all uranium in the United States is on Indian reservations. So we are affected by the development of fossil fuels and energy, which is then causing climate change, the burning of fossil fuels. And then the third way that we are disproportionately impacted are by the solutions, false solutions to climate change. In the United States, it's basically our solution to climate change is greenwashing the problem, you know, not really fixing it, but pretending that we are. And the solutions to climate change in the United States are things such as clean coal technology, which there is no such thing as clean coal, right? Especially for those of us who are on the extraction point of things, it makes no difference for us, clean coal technology. Another example or another solution in the United States is nuclear power. You know, in the Southwest, I said on our reservation we have a history of uranium mining, and our Navajo Nation president has banned uranium mining on our reservation because of the history that it had and the workers and families who became really sick because of it and are still sick. But all around, if you were to look at a map all around our reservations, there's uranium mining proposals all over the place. There's a big boom in the Southwest now for more uranium mining. In the Grand Canyon, there's a tribe that lives down there called the Havasupai, who they live inside the Grand Canyon. They're fighting uranium mining in the Grand Canyon. And you know, that's supposed to be one of the wonders of the world, you know, one of the great beautiful places in the United States, and they're still willing to sacrifice that place so that we can contain our lifestyle here in the United States. You know, that tells you something. And then the last thing that I will mention is carbon trading and the carbon market. I don't know how many of you here are involved in climate change policy. Do you understand what carbon trading is?
Yes.
Some people? Okay, let me try and imagine we're going to set a limit. We're going to stop climate change by setting a limit to emissions of carbon dioxide. So we're going to say, okay, we're only going to emit this much. Then we're going to kind of divide that up into little pieces and give it to, you know, Shell Oil Company or, you know, PG&E or, you know, whoever. Give them to the big emitters, and then they have then a certain right, a piece of paper that says they can emit this much CO2. We have a problem with that first because we don't believe in commodification of things that should be free, and this is putting a price to air, you know. Putting a monetary amount to air is something that we, you know, fundamentally stand against as my organization and as Indigenous people. But then they start trading these around different places in the United States or around the world, and they say, oh, well, I hear, you know, at this power plant in Las Vegas actually can't reduce my emissions, so I'll just buy more permits from other people. And so then that creates kind of hot spots of toxics then. That's one thing. And then there's also offsetting. Have you guys seen, like on plane tickets, when you purchase a plane ticket, it says, oh, if you pay an extra $30, then you know, we'll do something to offset the emissions of your flight. That's really popular nowadays, but then it's like, how are you going to reduce my emissions? What does that mean? And that's also turning out to be some very bad things that are these so-called offset projects. I left some materials on a chair in the back seat by the door, and then up here too. One of the things that my organization is very involved in on the international levels is the debate around REDS. You guys know what that is? RED stands for Reducing Emissions Through Deforestation and Degradation, and we have this info booklet back there. I think I really encourage you guys to take it. But basically what REDS is we're going to plant trees to offset carbon emissions. You know, sounds nice and it sounds good. We're going to protect forests, which is a good thing. But then when you get into the devil of the details, it's not necessarily a good thing. There's a big debate on what the definition of forests are. And what people are doing is cutting down natural forests and planting, you know, GMO trees, eucalyptus, palm oil, plantations, instead of real forests. Should that be what your money goes to in offsetting your emissions? You know, they're actually very bad projects that are being proposed to do offsets. And then for us in North America and our communities who are trying to fight against and close down power plants and close down mining operations, this doesn't do anything to help us, because in the United States and in Canada, for example, in the tar sands, they say, oh, we want to develop the tar sands, you know, we're not going to stop, so we'll just offset it someplace else, which means the communities who live there still have to continue to live with the sickness and the pollution. And so we're also against this idea of offsets. And then there's the whole question of the green economy that we might get to in a different question, so I'll leave that for later. Thanks.
Okay, so again, Elizabeth's role is going to be to actually, as Leah and Jahan respond, and she's taking copious notes, and she'll give a response, and as a respondent to what all she's heard, and kind of talk about how it links to her work and how it links to the global picture. Does that still work? Okay. So her next question is what are you as women of color and other sisters doing to address climate change?
I think that, you know, what I know about the environmental justice movement is that while we do have leaders of both genders, it is really women who are the backbone of the struggle here. Often very faceless, nameless, recognitionless, but are really the backbone of the struggle. The organizers, the mothers, the grandmothers, are really the ones on the ground who are demanding change for the salvation of their families and their communities. But like many social justice movements, we face issues of sexism and patriarchy and are often not seen, not uplifted, and not given the recognition that we deserve in terms of what we do to push this issue forward, to highlight this issue, and to really save our communities. I know that, you know, time and time again, I hear women talk, you know, we try to offer each other systems of support, but it's very well recognized among ourselves, at least, that the work that we do tends to go unnoticed, very much in the same way that there is no monetary value put on the work of a housewife or a stay-at-home mom, you know. But women of color in the United States, Black women, Latino women, Indigenous women, we are all leading the charge in moving this issue forward, because it's really up to us to be the salvation of our community.
Definitely in the work that I see, women too are also the leaders in a lot of these community struggles, because they're the head of the household, really. I mean, in my culture, we're matriarchy, so women are in charge. And culturally too, we're in charge of the home, which means we're in charge of the family, which means that we're in charge of the community and the well-being of the community. Traditionally, that's what our role is. And so I think, and that makes sense, you know, it totally makes sense that women, being the mothers and caretakers, are also in charge of keeping our community a community and like a whole family. And that's definitely true in the work that I've seen, is that women are the key ones in the front who are actually doing the work. That might not mean that they're the #1 spokespeople, not the #1 people who are out there giving big speeches and things like that, but they're the ones who are doing the work and the ones that are bringing the community together. So I always, you know, give props to the women in our community. I think, what are we doing to address this issue of climate change? I think the most kind kind of fundamental and foundational thing we can do